Well, welcome to another Goat Shed video. As requested, we're going to do today the Williams credit unit, or replay unit as we call them. This is the final step unit that needs to be done in my Williams Apollo. So today is Sunday the 5th of September. It's about 19 degrees outside, which is around about 63 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're going to proceed to remove this from the machine. Now, in order to do this, we have 1, 2, 3 screws to remove, another one down there. And in this case, we've got these 2 screws on the switch stack. That's actually a bracket. It's a little hard to see in there, but they're on a bracket. You could just see the end of the bracket curling around there. Now, a word of warning, on some of these games, the bracket isn't threaded. This bracket here, in other words, doesn't have a thread on it. It has one of those black plates. But this particular game doesn't have one. It's threaded, so that's good. That will allow us to take the switch stack off, and that'll swing aside. Now, at some point in time, someone's done a real dodgy sort of thing here. This switch here is the one you'd normally put in for free play. Look, they've bent it, curled it over for some unknown reason, and this switch here is the cutout switch for the coil, so you can't get any more replays. The way it's adjusted, it's stopping at 33 replays, so we'll fix it up so it can go to the true 37. Now, I've already checked this out. It is a little bit sticky. It's not too bad, but like always, we're going to pull it out and remove it entirely from the machine, so we've got it in our hands to work on. So let's go ahead and do that. Now we've removed the unit from the machine. We've just got the hole where it was. Now in this case, I've kept the wiring loom intact. I didn't bother unsoldering the coils. We often don't on replay units unless they've got those old brass coil sleeves in them. This one didn't. It just had the standard plastic ones, which we'll be able to replace. I've taped the switches together so they can't fall apart. We'll have to fix them up later. But that's one of the last things we'll do. So now we've got the unit and in our hand, and we'll take the unit now and we'll get it ready for cleaning. It'll need to go in the ultrasonic cleaner, which I'll be doing tomorrow. So we have the unit out of the machine as we just illustrated. It's on the table. Now, just a visual look at this, and the first thing we notice is something I've discussed in previous Williams videos, but the stepper will go to step backwards before it steps forwards. That's because that pawl up there is sitting in the incorrect position on the tooth. It should be back resting against the actual tooth, and we'll adjust that by means of this thrust screw here once we get it all back together. So that's wrong for a start. It should not do that. Alright, looking at it a little bit further, we can see that this probably has never been pulled apart for a very, very long time. So it's going to get put in the ultrasonic cleaner. So the first thing we'll be doing is, just after a visual inspection, we notice how dirty it is all here. There's dried up grease there on that pawl. Now, I spoke about that pawl the other day. That's what Williams call the escapement pawl. That pawl drops in and checks the teeth on the way backwards. So if we come in a backward motion, that pawl, see what it does? It drops into the teeth to check the rear movement and stop the wheel from going back too far. So there's a collar there, here, which I pointed out. That's the collar on the escapement pawl. So if this was a non-single step resetting stepper, this pawl would not be necessary. So for argument's sake, it wasn't on the ball count unit, because that's a complete resetting stepper that we did the other day. Now we have a look at the both coil plungers, which are already out. It's probably hard to see in the video, but they're very dirty, they're grungy, they don't run smoothly in the sleeves, but those sleeves will get replaced. So these are the things that you service on these machines. Now what's this, 67, so it's 54 years old. I'll venture to say this has never been pulled apart in 54 years. Now there's another thing I notice. That arm is bent rather badly. Like it should be on a 90-degree angle, that arm. I don't know why they've bent that. We'll have to have a look at that. I'll probably bend that back straight when I get that out. Hope I don't break it, but we should have another one. There's a reason someone bent that. They've tried to adjust something, and they probably didn't have much hope of adjustment, because this stepper is not in good adjustment itself, because of this thrust screw is out holding that pawl in the wrong position. So what we're going to do now, we're going to remove that circlip to take off the drive arm. We're going to remove these two springs and the escapement pawl spring. Everything will come apart. We're going to unwind the torsion spring. Now we spoke about that the other day. There's no need to worry about how many turns it is, or at least I don't anyway. You can if you want. But Williams had a really good idea where what they did, you can go a fraction of a turn. So here's where the torsion spring hooks into the escapement wheel, just here. Yeah, there. Now, so you could actually move that across to the next one if you wanted a little bit more rather than a full turn. That's how they thought. A really good idea. Actually, Bally had a similar idea with their steppers as well. But their stepper escapement wheels are plastic nylon rather than metal. So this is good. This one's got both stops on it, the reset and complete stops. The insulation's on there, and that's really set that screw there to go 37 credits, but as we know it's not, because those switches are adjusted badly. If we wanted it to go less, we simply undo it and put it here. You can't go any further, there's no more screws there. So these different holes here adjust how many credits you have. You can go from probably a minimum of about, I don't know how many that'd be, maybe 5 or 6. Then you can go up and up and up. That's if all the holes are threaded. But you could thread them if you needed to or you wanted to for any strange reasons. So we'll pull that apart. We've just got this nut to undo here. That's the last thing we'll take off. And that allows us to pull the escapement wheel straight through the shaft. And then we can get the credit unit wheel and clean it. It's not too bad, this one. So yeah, let's get ahead and do all that stuff now. Yeah, one thing I didn't mention about getting that wheel off is that when you're trying to turn the nut driver in the anti-clockwise direction to undo the nut, the wheel will go the same way. So you've got to jam a screwdriver through the frame, preferably from the other side, so you don't bend like I've done there, and then you can loosen the nut like that. Now that nut was a little bit tight too, so that's just a trap you've got to do on a lot of steppers, not just replay units, but you'd have to do it on, say, a coin unit stepper, a Williams, a ball count stepper, and what else? Oh yeah, the bonus stepper. So that's just another little trick you've got to remember to do. Okay, just keep that in mind. So I just have a little cradle. I just get a couple of blocks of wood, sit this particular stepper like in there like that, then I can get it everything. So what I've done, I've already taken the circlip off. So that really should fall under its own steam. It is, but it's a bit sluggish, so that's got to be cleaned. Look at all the grease on the escapement wheel. You know, that's just all those years of grease. Even though it doesn't seem like it hurts, it can interfere with things. You can see it's all around it. It gets really thick. Look next to the zero stop stud. Look how thick that is. So that's got to get cleaned. Now we'll take the index off. Just lift that straight up. And I already took the escapement pawl off. It came off first. And there it is. It's a bit bent. So we'll straighten that out. And you can see all the stuff on there, all the grease and crap. So yeah, I mean, this is why we pull them right apart. I know people don't like to do this, but once I've said before, I think it's necessary, because you'll never ever have to do it again. So that makes a lot of sense to me, particularly if you're going to keep the machine, or if you've got pride of workmanship and you do it yourself. So what we'll do now, we'll go away and we'll put this stuff in the ultrasonic cleaner, but I'll be doing that tomorrow, where the ultrasonic cleaner is, because I haven't got it here at home. And then we're going to reassemble it and adjust it. Alright, we've cleaned all the parts up now on the replay unit stepper. So given the replay unit window a bit of a polish there on the buffer. Used a hard buffing wheel with a bit of that soap. The frames came up quite nicely. We've cleaned all the parts. So there's the drive pawl, index pawl, or arm I should say. The escapement wheel came up nicely. And there's the escapement pawl. There's a spring running away. There's the escapement pawl. And we'll try and show you. That's all a lot straighter now than what it was. That was a bit bent. I think someone's bent that to try and compensate the pawl. I think they thought that it might help it lift better or do something better. I'm not really sure why they did that. I can't work it out. Okay, so we're going to assemble that now. So first thing we'll do is we'll put the drive arm back on with the drive pawl. That simply goes here like such. So that's okay. Next thing we can put on is the index arm. It goes on there like such. Make sure you get it on the right side. The idea of that, as you can see, is that the index arm sits under the drive pawl, so it'll lift it up. Like that. That's sort of like at rest position. And then we have to fit the escapement pawl on. So as we do with that, turn it over the right way. That bit there that we straightened, you might remember, goes on top of the index arm. And then we're good to go. So we just got to put the washer on here, and the circlip, and the washer on here, and then we'll go ahead and put the springs back on. Now when we fit the escapement wheel in, we've got to make sure that that silver stud there fits in and doesn't go over the lip of the zero stop, which is just here. So that's your zero stop position, and that silver arm fits it. So I've got that held up now by the escapement pawl, so I'll just drop that. That'll fall into place, and that's where it fits. If it does go on the wrong side, of course you'll have issues. The switches won't work properly and things like that. If you do accidentally push it out, put it back there, and that's it. That's as far as it can go. Okay, so that's pretty easy. Now we're going to wind that spring up, that torsion spring up, in a minute, and I'm going to try that with about 3 to 4 turns. Oh, I'll need 2 hands to do that, so and I'll put the other springs on. So I'll let you know how many turns we do on that. So just bear with me while I carry that procedure out. So the springs are all on, remembering that on a Williams, the shorter of the spring goes on the back there, and the longer the spring goes on the front. You've got to put that spring on before you wind the torsion spring up, and in this case I put the escapement spring, coil spring on first. It just made it easier. I've wound the torsion spring 4 times. Now if we just drive this manually a few times, that'll do. And now we can operate the reset by pushing down on this arm. It'll go reset, and you can see the silver stud coming round. That's at home position. So when we fit the escapement wheel on, we'll put that so that the wheel goes on the back like this. Oh, where are we? Can we see it? Like that. And remember, they don't have a 0 on, so when that actual wheel goes in, when it actually goes on the machine, there'll be 0 will be not showing because there isn't a 0, so there'll be a blank space there. Hope that makes sense. I think you'll work out. We've got to look through the window and see nothing, and then click up. So we mentioned earlier on that we may need to do this adjustment here, but I'll have to wait till I get the coils on now and just see how that looks, and if that's the case we'll just make that adjustment to get that drive pull dropping in right. I did illustrate that in a previous video, so it'll be harder to do it in the machine than for me to film it, so you probably need to refer to that video that I did, but we'll have a go. All you've got to do is undo the nut there and simply thrust that screw in a little bit till the pull falls down in front of the tooth, rides up the front of the tooth. It's quite simple. So that's the easy part of the Williams to do. Alright, we've got the wheel back on and in position. I've just done a minor adjustment on that thrust screw we were talking about a minute ago, and as I said, I'll do the rest in the machine just to see how it looks. So so far it's looking pretty good. So I've just put the coil sleeves in now. I've set a block of wood there to make it easier for me to work on. It holds the wiring harness just up about the right height, so you don't have to stretch things too much. I've adjusted these switches, straightened them up as best I can. That's just the insulation there. Bear in mind the top switch is the free play switch, and that bottom switch gives power to the step up coil, and that should only break when we get to the maximum amount of credits. So I'll have to get and reassemble this now, but unfortunately I'm going to have to do a lot of it off camera. I think everyone can understand that. It's just a matter of really putting the coil sleeves back in and then checking that everything is okay, and then screwing it back into the machine, just lining up the window there with the window on the fascia of the unit, and away we'll go. Then we should be pretty right. So let's get busy and do that. Alright, job's now complete. I've adjusted those switches. As I said, the very top one, that's for free play. The one underneath cuts power to the coil, so that's now going to 37 credits. I've straightened that out as well. That's your knocker switch there, so if we pull that fires your knocker. So that's the Williams credit unit. We've got, if we just top round the front here, we've got it going to the 37 credits now, and it cuts out when it gets there. So it's working the way it should. So I hope this video on Williams replay units has been useful, and it helps others to do their games. We'd like if you would follow our videos by subscribing to our channel and giving us the thumbs up, and if you have any comments or questions, please do so down below. In the meantime, this has been another Goat Shed presentation.